WWE has officially announced its return to Saudi Arabia Friday, June 7th at the King Abdullah Sports City Stadium in Jeddah. It will air live on the WWE Network as the other two specials did last year. No name yet for the event. Might I suggest the sequel to Sweet Saudi Money 2 Electric Boogaloo be Sweet Saudi Money 3D and make everybody in the audience wear those funny glasses. Or I think it was Brennan Williams who I saw call it this online. He's in NXT right now, and he tweeted something out calling it the Greatest American Bash. That works too. The Greatest American Bash, live from Saudi Arabia. They're busting out the big guns for this one. Bill Goldberg is among the talent advertised so far. It doesn't explicitly say that he's having a match, but I don't think they're flying him all the way over there and paying him to give a lecture on Jewish ancestry. We've got Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, The Undertaker, Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, and Kofi Kingston are all announced so far. Mick Foley said that he can be had too for a certain price. If they wanted a rematch of the Hell in a Cell with him and The Undertaker bad enough and they were willing to pay for it, then they'd probably get it. Now, I didn't hear his comments, I only read them. I am sure that he was joking. I certainly hope he was joking when he said that. Because, forgetting the Saudi prince for a second, the idea of Mick Foley stepping back into the ring at all is something that absolutely nobody is asking for. He'd never be cleared anyway. If they cleared Mick Foley to wrestle and take bumps, but they forced Daniel Bryan into retirement for 3 years due to concussions, then the entire system is a sham. As far as them going back to Saudi Arabia, look, it will never be a good look for WWE to do business with the Crown Prince after he had that reporter killed, the Washington Post reporter. Killed and dismembered, I think it's important to note. But it probably doesn't help matters that Saudi Arabia just beheaded 37 people, including a kid who was set to attend college in Michigan. I don't know how many of you know that whole story. He was actually accepted 7 years ago. But he was arrested 7 years ago on his way to the airport to come to this country. His crime, apparently, was that he attended a pro-democracy rally. And he was among the 37 who was beheaded in the last few weeks. So that's the government that WWE has chosen to do business with. It's always important to make the distinction that it's not a reflection on the people there, but the government that they have chose to do business with. And look, that's their choice. But with that, they're going to have to take the heat every single time they announce a new show and they go to Saudi Arabia. And every time that there's something like this that is in the news, they are rightly going to take the heat for it. It's just sort of baked into the contract that they signed. No women among the names announced so far. No surprise there. I did say on Twitter, if they tell the Crown Prince that Becky Lynch is the man, then they might just let her wrestle on this show. Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns being on that list is very interesting, considering the... Now, I don't think he ever went public with this, but the reports at the time in the fall last year were that he did not want to go to the last Saudi Arabia show. He did not want to go to Crown Jewel in Riyadh, which, as it turned out, he didn't have to because of his leukemia diagnosis. So it never really got to that, but the rumors were, we already knew John Cena wasn't going to go. Daniel Bryan is not a fan of going to these shows, and interestingly, he's not advertised for this either. But that Roman was going to join them, and then, of course, he got sick, so we'll never know. But now he's on the list. This time he's advertised for it. Daniel Bryan, like I said, is not. Sami Zayn is not, so far. Either he didn't want to go, or he was kept home for his own safety last time, supposedly because of his Syrian heritage. There's some tension there. Anybody who doesn't want to go to... perform on the Saudi Arabia show should in no way be forced to go. No different than their trips to Iraq all those years ago. Rob Van Dam is one of the only people to speak up and say, I don't want to go to Iraq at the time, to what was at the time a full-blown war zone. And he got heat for it. He was never pushed at a top level again after that in that company, although that probably had more to do with his arrest the same year, because I think him turning down the invite to Iraq was a few months after he got popped, the whole pot bust, and they had him drop the WWE title and the ECW title. That probably had more to do with it than anything. But good for him. He doesn't owe anybody an explanation for why he doesn't want to go. That story always made me laugh. It's like, apparently, that's what got him heat. It was more than the fact that he didn't want to go, but that he didn't thank Vince McMahon for the opportunity when he was invited, and he didn't have a good enough reason for not going. Doesn't need one. If people don't want to go, they should not be forced to go. So we'll see if there's any noticeable faces missing this time from this show. Goldberg. Why is Goldberg going to Saudi Arabia? Well, they're paying him a shitload of money. That's the main reason. But he also responded to two Saudi Arabia fans on Twitter, Saudi Arabian fans on Twitter, with emojis when they tweeted him about how excited they were that he was coming to their country to perform in front of them. And again, as I said before, I mean, there are a number of WWE fans in Saudi Arabia. I have some listeners who actually live in Saudi Arabia. I had one listener, I think like a year ago or 2 years ago, tweet me a video, this 30-second video of him driving in his car down the street somewhere in Saudi Arabia while listening to the podcast. And it was awesome. I love seeing stuff like that. But that's why Goldberg, at least on Twitter, that's why Goldberg claims he's doing it. He's doing it for the people. It's not the money. Of course not. He's doing it for the people. Now, there were rumors that AEW was either in talks with him or they were possibly interested in bringing him in so they can get that one really big name to help get them off the ground. And again, those were the rumors. I don't know if there were any discussions between the two sides. I know Batista talked to the AEW people. He's publicly admitted that. He said he had conversations with them and they made him a very generous offer, or he was led to believe that he would make some very good money. And in his mind, though, he had one match left in mind. That was the match with Triple H at WrestleMania, and that was it. He got his match, and now he's retired, and he's done with wrestling. But the AEW and Goldberg rumors have been around for a while. Obviously, they didn't get too deep into any talks. But I don't think it's a coincidence at all that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Goldberg is back with WWE. What a coincidence. There are no coincidences in wrestling. But it's been over 2 years since his last match. Last we saw him, he lost the Universal title to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 33 in what I thought was a really fun match. It's just 5 or 6 minutes of these two big bulls beating the hell out of each other from the opening bell. You know, it wasn't 90 seconds like their Survivor Series match, but it was short enough. They didn't overstay their welcome, and it was actually one of the more enjoyable parts of WrestleMania that year. Now, do they go with a Goldberg-Lesnar rematch, Goldberg-Lesnar 4? You got to change it up. I wouldn't go back to the same match again. Goldberg and Roman Reigns, that could be an attraction. Battle of the Spears. Or Undertaker against Goldberg, which is a match that Goldberg has said in the past that he's wanted. You know, after watching Undertaker on that last Saudi show, I shudder at the thought of that match. But I guess it would be, I guess it would be an attraction. You could build it up on TV for a few weeks. You know that WWE would love to get a couple of Goldberg-Undertaker segments on these TV shows, the way their numbers keep dropping like a rock, even if it's only 2 weeks. So, you know, I could see them putting a match like that together. Or maybe WWE goes the predictable route and they don't announce any match for Goldberg other than he's going to be there, and he ends up doing some kind of segment where he interrupts Elias. And he gives Elias a spear and a jackhammer and he leaves. Could be something as simple as that. We'll see what they have up their sleeve for him. You know, look, you could do a mega match or something. There's going to be a lot of people who aren't even going to bother with this show, who just don't watch any of the Saudi shows. And so I don't know what kind of audience they'll get for it. Supposedly there was a drop-off in network subscribers after the last show from people who said they were going to boycott and actually followed through. There was a noticeable, I don't know how big the drop was, but there was a drop apparently coming out of that Crown Jewel show around that time period that you could conceivably tie into the Saudi Arabia effect. Will they lose subscribers again for doing another show there? You know, I don't know. I doubt they care for the money they're getting. They probably don't care. They figure they'll recoup those subscribers at some point. They're going to be relaunching the network later this year. They haven't explained what that means. I assume that's just the introduction of the different, you know, tiered system. Maybe that's when they're going to start offering, you know, other promotions like ICW and, you know, other promotions that they have a working relationship with. They may start introducing their shows onto the network for a higher price point. But there's a network relaunch of some kind coming later this year, and I'm sure they're pretty focused on that right now. But it's that sweet Saudi money that's allowing WWE to throw around the kind of money they are to its talent right now. Jim Ross said in a recent interview that he heard WWE offered $500,000 to keep a mid-card performer who's not even on TV that much, to keep him in their stable.